What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Driver's Paddock. And behind me is this beautiful 2023 Shark Blue 718 Cayman T. Make sure you watch this entire video because I'm going to be talking about why I think a lot of YouTuber reviewers have got this car wrong, and why I think this is probably the most misunderstood car in the entire Porsche lineup. Let's take a closer look. So everybody, 2023 Porsche Cayman T. Let's talk first a little bit about the spec. So this car is in this beautiful shark blue color, and it has a few other things. Because it's a T, it comes standard with Sport Chrono package. It has PASM. It has the GTS suspension, which lowers it 20 millimeters. It does not have double wishbone suspension. It has these beautiful yellow dials, beautiful yellow door pulls, the 18-way adjustable seats. And the Cayman T has a 2-liter turbo flat 4 with 300 horsepower, 280 foot-pounds of torque, down low at 1950 RPMs. And it's a 6-speed manual with the factory GT4 short shifter as standard. So let's go for a drive and we can talk a little bit about what I think about the car. Let's go. All right, 2023 Porsche Cayman T. And I've had the pleasure of spending quite some time with this car, and I really want to do it justice. But before we begin, I just want to talk about this one concept in, I guess, the car community. And I think we all call ourselves car enthusiasts. But I think there's many different camps of people. You know, the car enthusiast might be somebody who loves cars for the way they look, the engineering behind them. Maybe they have a car collection. And then you have people who are maybe more driving enthusiasts who, you know, they don't necessarily go to the track, but they love shifting a manual gear shifter. They love going and carving some back roads, that sort of thing. They enjoy the experience of driving, maybe a sense of freedom. And then we have another camp of people who are track enthusiasts, who love to push their cars to the limit, who love going to the track, who are trying to chase their personal best, those sorts of people. And I'm not saying that we can only be one. What I'm saying is, you know, most likely you're more one than the other. And when driving enthusiasts or car enthusiasts or track enthusiasts start reviewing cars that are not made for them, I think we missed the mark just a little bit. So I'm going to do my best in reviewing this car. And firstly, I've had the pleasure of taking this car to Shannonville Motorsports Park. And I had a couple really good sessions in it. Unfortunately, I hit a lot of traffic, wasn't able to get my optimal. But in the first session, within 2 laps, I had already done a 156 flat, 156.0. And you'll see in that next lap, turn 1, I already have a 10th delta before hitting traffic. So it was a bit of a frustrating day, but I really got to know this car. Before we talk any further, let's take a look at that lap. 156 flat. And what an amazing car. And honestly, this is not even an S. That's an amazing time for basically what is a base Cayman. It's not an S, it's not a GTS, it's not a GT4, it's not a GT4S. I can't imagine what those cars can do at that track. But I think the most important thing that we need to talk about when it comes to a Cayman is handling characteristics and balance and things like that. Look, a lot of YouTubers have compared this car to maybe a G87 M2 or a Supra or other, maybe like a Z. And people have said that this is a rich man's BRZ, or that the BRZ N86 is the poor man's version of a Cayman. You can't even compare these cars. You absolutely cannot. The way that the Cayman gets these lap times is unlike anything else. It's all about balance, and this car can be fast on entry, mid corner, and corner exit. And again, there's just so much adjustability as you're driving, unlike anything else. And it's mid-engine. And no BRZ, no M2, no Supra has anywhere close. No 911 has the mid-corner adjustability that this car has. And partly that's maybe due to the Porsche torque vectoring differential. You really feel it push you out of the corners. Again, it's also the mid-engine layout. And this car is just absolutely amazing to drive on track. And if we're talking lap times, pure lap times, one lap, maybe a G87 is faster, maybe the Supra is faster. But can a 3,800-pound G87 M2 do more than 1, 2, maybe 3 hot laps? This car, I went lap after lap after lap, no problem. This is the lightest car that Porsche makes, around 3,000 pounds. What an absolute dream to drive. And the thing is, a lot of other cars, you're driving around inherent problems. If you're driving an FF car, you really need to set it up to rotate, throw it in, get it to rotate, get on power. Or maybe like a BMW, they do understeer a little bit on entry, and you really have to manage the throttle on exit because those cars just yaw so much. This car, you're not driving around any problems. It's absolutely amazing. And so we should probably talk a little bit about the driving dynamics of this car. Like I said earlier, all you need to do is load up the front, turn the car in, and there's this huge window of adjustability mid-corner. And it's mind-blowing. You lift off, the nose tucks in. You give it a bootload of gas, the car starts to yaw slowly, and again, there's this huge range where it just yaw bit by bit, more and more and more and more in a controlled four-wheel slide. It just tucks the nose in and kicks the rear out gradually, pushing you out of the corners. If you aggressively turn in and pitch it in and give it a bootload of gas, same thing. It does yaw, it does kick the rear end out, but it's just so balanced. And again, that's probably due to the mid-engine layout and some clever Porsche engineering. Look, there are a lot of cars in the Cayman lineup, right? There's the base, the T, the GTS, the GT4, and now the GT4 RS. But if you street drive and you track drive, this is absolutely the one to buy. These seats are super comfortable, and honestly, if I were to spec a T, I wouldn't get the carbon buckets. These are the seats to have. They're super good for daily driving, and they're also really good on the track as well. Next, I want to talk about this short shifter. It is an absolute joy to use. Because this is the T, it comes standard with the GT4 short shifter. And it feels amazing. It's probably the best, it's not quite, a gated shifter, but it's probably the best that a cable shifter can get. Super responsive, not super notchy. There's virtually no play in the shifter. Downshifts are amazing. What a good car. Next, I want to talk a little bit about this motor. And honestly, guys, I think this is the one to buy. And I know it's a 4-cylinder. I know it's turbocharged. I know it doesn't sound like the glorious GT4, GT4 RS. But honestly, this car has the torque to really get you out of corners. And the power is really usable on the street. Unlike, maybe a GT4 where you really have to rev it out with those really long gears. Again, this car just has the torque. Peak torque, 1950, revs all the way to 7,500 from a 4-cylinder turbo. It's super usable on the street and it's super usable on the track. Paired with this GT4 short shifter, it's an absolute dream to drive. For those who think this motor sounds like an STI motor, it is not. It is so much more refined than an STI motor. Next, let's talk about the pedals. Clutch first, and it's not overly heavy. The pedal placements are amazing. Heel-toe downshift is swell. And again, the pedal is not overly stiff, and the grab point is where you'd expect it to be. And it's gradual. With the brake pedal, the brake pedal has so much modulation. I don't know if it's because of the pad compound or clever Porsche engineering, but you do get some really good brake travel. And the more I push, the more brakes it gives me. The less I push, the less brakes it gives me, and it's extremely linear and gradual. The brakes were amazing on track. The throttle, it's not overly sensitive. Even in Sport Plus mode, it's very linear, and that's exactly what a sports car should have. Even in my personal M2C, the throttle mapping in Sport Plus is just way too sensitive. And it's a little peaky, a little bit spiky. This car, gradual throttle inputs right out of the apex. This car is textbook perfect. Next, let's talk a little bit about the suspension. And this car does have PASM. And on the street, in the comfort mode, it's so plush. It's comfortable, it absorbs the bumps, and it doesn't beat you up at all. I have zero complaints there. So if you're looking for a dual-purpose track and street car, the suspension is just about perfect. On the track, in the Sport Plus mode or the Sport Chassis mode, it's pretty good. The car really digs. You really feel the car load up. The only complaint I have is the rebound. I wish there was just a little bit more rebound in those fast transitions, but otherwise, I really, really like this setup. And if you have bumpy tracks like we do here in Ontario, Canada, you'll really appreciate the Cayman T suspension. It's just soft enough to just soak up all those bumps, but the tires really dig and there's not excessive roll. Porsche Cayman T is something special. It's something special for a special type of driver. And I'm glad it's on the market. And honestly, I haven't said one bad thing about this car. And so why don't I already have one? And I can't tell you how many times people have asked me, hey Jay, why don't you have a Porsche? You spent so much money on this M2 competition. You should have just bought a Porsche. Yada, yada, yada. And in a sense, they're right. I have at least 981 GT4 money in my car or, current gen GTS money in my car. But I asked the viewers, can a car be too perfect? Can a car be too good? And has engineering killed some of the fun in driving? All these extremely clever electronically controlled differentials that make cars do amazing things that they really shouldn't be able to do, but they do. So the Porsche Cayman T. What an amazing car. And I haven't said one bad thing about this car. And I'll ask you the question, can a car be too perfect? Has engineering taken some of the fun out of the cars? Honestly, I think the cars that we buy tell us a lot about our personalities, what we like, what we don't like, some of our temperament. And personally, maybe I do like a little bit of turbo lag, that excitement that builds right before huge power hits you, kind of like VTEC. Or maybe I do like a lot of yaw, sending it completely sideways through a corner. Honestly, this car, as amazing as it is, doesn't make my hands sweat. It doesn't make my feet sweat. And it doesn't make me cream in the front and the back as I'm completely sideways holding on for dear life. And for that reason, there's no way that I could ever let go of my M2 comp. Thanks for joining me on this Cayman T review, and thanks to MTech Auto for giving me the car. And if you have a BMW, Audi, Porsche, or any car for that matter, they do modifications, maintenance, and race prep. They look after all of my personal cars. So check them out. The sun is setting, and this particular car, whether you're into attacking apexes or chasing sunsets, I think this is the one to buy. Thanks for everything, and we'll catch you on the next one.